Warhawks, this is Mr. Tipton. Today we're going to be talking about Chapter 7.2, which is really just a reiteration of 7.1. 7.1 we learned how to move images around in the coordinate grid, whether it's sliding it, whether it's rotating it, or a reflection. So now we're just going to look at situations where we have a question already answered, basically, and we have to say what happened. So I look at this first problem here, and I see we're going from image 1 to image 2. I see that this is not really a reflection. I don't see the same image over here as I see there. I also don't see it down here. And then also notice how this wouldn't necessarily be a rotation, because if we were rotating this image, even if we were rotating it 180 degrees, it should look like this down there. It doesn't. So it wasn't either one of those. We actually slid this image. If we look, this point corresponds with this one, so we went over to the right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 units to the right. So we'd say we slid this or translated it 9 units right from image 1 to image 2, and then actually went down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 units down. So there would be our translation, would be we're going 9 units right and 8 units down. So there's an example of a slide or a translation there. If we look at another situation we have where we have maybe a reflection or a mirror image here, and how we'd answer this question. So that question say, well, what happened here? We'd say, well, we moved this unit 9 units right and 8 units down, or we moved that shape. So here they show us a picture. Okay, it went from this original shape to shape number 2, and we see that this looks like it could actually be a where you just moved it to the right. But notice how A is here now and over here. So if we just moved this image 1 to the right, or slid it, then A should be there and A should be there. So we can see this is actually a reflection where A has been reflected across that y-axis, and it's over here, because A is 6 units away from the y-axis there, and then A, the one that's been translated, is also 6 units away from the y-axis. So how we'd answer a question like this, we'd say, well, the shape 1 was reflected across the y-axis. If our image had been down here and it was the same type of situation, we'd say it was reflected across the x-axis. Just depends on which axis we're using as like our mirror image there. So we look at another example here. Now this is going to be an example of a rotation. In this situation, we see we're going from image 1 to image 2. If we look at image 1 here, let me go ahead and highlight this. I'm just going to clone it. Keep this over here for a second. So image 1 hasn't been reflected. It's not up here. And actually, if it was reflected, it would be turned this way. But it's not there. We also see that it's not been reflected down here. So this is making me think it's probably a rotation. You might say, well, what if they just like slid it up and then over to the right? Well, look, they don't really match up. And I see that actually if I rotate this 90 and then 180 degrees, and now it actually does fit that image. So here we see a rotation. It doesn't really matter whether you're going clockwise or counterclockwise. If we're going clockwise, that would be 90-degree rotation, and then another 90 would make 180. Or if we're going counterclockwise, we'd have 90, and then another 90 would make 180. So it really doesn't matter. I could say either one here, but my answer here I would say, what happened? How did image 1 get to image 2? I would say that it was rotated 180 degrees or actually I would say 180 degrees clockwise or counterclockwise, doesn't matter, about the origin, because we are rotating around that central point there, or that central 0, 0 location, which is called the origin. So now in our last example, we're going to look at, okay, this is our original here. We want to see, well, what happened to get A? Well, A is not really a reflection. If it was a reflection, you should see this exact same image reflected up here, meaning this point should be the same units away from the X line as this point is, and they're not. You can see how that point there would match up with that if it was actually reflected across that X. So if we're looking at A, we would say that A was actually slid or translated, and we're just going up. Okay, it didn't move right or left, it just went up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 units. So we'd say translated up 8 units. So that's for the first one. Now for the second one, for B, we can see that's that same situation where we took this original picture over here and we didn't slide it, we didn't reflect it, but we actually rotated it. If you look, we rotated it 180 degrees, and now it does match up with image B over there. So to answer the question, we would say B was rotated 180 degrees. It doesn't matter whether you say clockwise or counterclockwise. We'll say about the origin. And then for our last answer here for C, well, C is an example of a reflection. You can even see it here. It's not a like translation. If you move it over, they don't overlap. But what you see here is actually, if we take and even I'm going to go ahead and just say we're going to flip this, which is basically a reflection. We're going to flip it to the left, and then look, it's the same amount of units away, meaning that this unit here, or this point here, is 1, 2 units from the Y, and so is this one. It's 1, 2 units from the Y. So we would say for C, C was reflected across the, and actually this case, that up and down line there is going to be the Y axis. All right, we'll see you in class. Make sure you take the notes.